Welcome to today's podcast, where we'll dive into the significant implications of the recent election of Masoud Pezeshkian as the new president of Iran. In this episode, we'll be exploring the potential impacts of Pezeshkian's presidency, both domestically and internationally. We'll start by looking at the domestic scene, focusing on human rights and what changes we might expect under this new leadership. We'll also delve into women's freedoms and rights, areas that have garnered considerable attention and advocacy within and outside Iran. On the international front, we'll discuss how Pezeshkian's administration could influence Iran's nuclear development and the broader geopolitical implications. We will also examine Iran's support for Gaza and Hezbollah and consider how these dynamics might shift under the new president. Lastly, we'll take a look at the persistent and complex Iran-Israel conflict, evaluating how Pezeshkian's policies might affect this ongoing tension. Masoud Pezeshkian's election as the new president of Iran raises significant questions about the future of human rights in the country. Under previous administrations, Iran has been criticized for its record on human rights, including issues such as freedom of speech, the right to peaceful assembly, and the treatment of political dissidents. Pezeshkian's past as a reformist and his promises during the campaign suggest that there could be some hope for change within this realm. A key area to watch is the government's handling of political prisoners and human rights activists. Pezeshkian has previously indicated a commitment to overhauling the judicial system, which could potentially lead to fairer trials and reduced sentences for those imprisoned on political charges. Another indicator will be the government's approach to media freedom. Current policies heavily restrict journalists and press outlets, stifling free expression. Changes in this area could signal a broader shift towards greater human rights protections. Social media and internet freedoms are also areas of concern for many Iranians. The current stance includes heavy surveillance and censorship, severely limiting online freedoms. Any initiatives to ease these restrictions will be seen as a positive move towards respecting human rights. However, it remains to be seen how Pezeshkian will balance these potential reforms with the conservative elements within Iran's political structure that favor maintaining the status quo. His ability to enact significant change will likely depend on his willingness to challenge these entrenched interests and navigate the complex landscape of Iranian politics. The election of Masoud Pezeshkian as the new Iranian president brings forth significant questions regarding women's rights and freedoms in Iran. Historically, women in Iran have faced substantial restrictions, from enforced dress codes to limitations on their participation in public life. The previous administrations have oscillated between periods of slight relaxation and severe crackdowns, leaving many uncertain about the future. During his campaign, Pezeshkian made various promises to address issues related to gender equality. However, his actual impact will heavily depend on his ability to navigate the complex political landscape dominated by conservative factions within the government. Advocates for women's rights are cautiously hopeful but remain vigilant. They emphasize the need for tangible policy changes such as greater participation of women in the workforce, education reform, and more significant political representation. Furthermore, Pezeshkian's stance on social freedoms, like the ability for women to attend sports events and access to public services without compulsory male guardianship, remains to be seen. Will he support reforms that allow for more personal freedoms, or will he uphold the status quo that has long controlled female autonomy in Iran? The next few months will be crucial in determining the direction of women's rights and freedoms under his administration, and the world will be watching closely. The election of Masoud Pezeshkian as Iran's new president brings significant implications for the country's nuclear development and its international relations. Under previous administrations, Iran's nuclear program has been a contentious issue, leading to heavy international scrutiny and sanctions. Pezeshkian's stance on nuclear development appears to be one of cautious advancement. Unlike his hardline predecessors, Pezeshkian has indicated a willingness to engage in diplomatic negotiations, potentially opening doors to revive and perhaps even improve the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA. However, this does not mean Pezeshkian is expected to halt Iran's nuclear ambitions altogether. His administration is likely to continue the drive for self-sufficiency in energy, framed as a matter of national pride and security. The balancing act Pezeshkian must perform involves maintaining Iran's sovereignty in its nuclear policy while alleviating international concerns. His election raises the possibility of de-escalation in the nuclear standoff, but this will require substantive diplomacy and trust-building measures. On the international stage, Pezeshkian's approach could represent a shift towards more collaborative engagement, particularly with European nations hoping to salvage the JCPOA. Yet skepticism remains, especially from US and Israeli officials who demand stringent measures to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons capability. Pezeshkian's policies will need to navigate this maze of distrust, balancing internal pressures to advance nuclear technology against external pressures for transparency and restraint. Pezeshkian's leadership will be tested by how effectively he can involve Iran in constructive international dialogues, which could involve agreeing to more rigorous inspections by the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, and commitments to peaceful nuclear use. The international community will be watching closely, hoping for signs that Iran, under Pezeshkian, will pursue a path that fosters regional stability rather than exacerbating tensions. In summary, while Pezeshkian's administration may offer a tempered progression of Iran's nuclear program, achieving a balance that satisfies both domestic aspirations and international demands will be critical. The coming years will reveal whether his strategies can successfully bring about a significant shift in Iran's nuclear posture and its global relationships. Masoud Pezeshkian's election as the new Iranian president introduces an interesting dynamic when considering Iran's support for both Gaza and Hezbollah. Historically, Iran has been a staunch ally to both entities, providing military, financial, and political support. But with Pezeshkian at the helm, will Iran's strategy change? Pezeshkian is known for his pragmatic approach, yet he remains deeply rooted in the principles of the Iranian Revolution. This blend of pragmatism and ideological commitment could result in nuanced changes. While it is unlikely that Iran will completely sever its support for Gaza and Hezbollah, we might observe a shift in how this support is manifested. In Gaza, Iran's backing of Hamas has been a cornerstone of its policy, aimed at exerting influence and countering Israeli power. Pezeshkian may continue this support, but with a more strategic allocation of resources, potentially emphasizing diplomatic channels and humanitarian aid to complement military assistance. This tactic could serve to bolster Iran's image on the international stage while still maintaining its influence in Gaza. As for Hezbollah, the group's role as a proxy for Iranian interests in Lebanon and Syria remains crucial. Pezeshkian might adopt a strategy that strengthens Hezbollah's political clout within Lebanon's fragile political landscape. By supporting Hezbollah's integration into Lebanese politics, Pezeshkian ensures Iran's long-term influence without necessarily escalating military tensions, which aligns with his measured approach. Additionally, Pezeshkian's presidency might bring a more balanced approach to regional alliances. While continuing support for Gaza and Hezbollah, he may seek to diversify Iran's regional relationships to avoid over-reliance on any single group, which could lead to a more stable and resilient foreign policy. Overall, Masoud Pezeshkian's presidency is poised to continue Iran's support for Gaza and Hezbollah, albeit with a strategic recalibration that emphasizes diplomacy, political influence, and humanitarian aid, alongside traditional military support. This nuanced approach could potentially offer Iran sustained influence in these regions while mitigating some of the international criticism it faces. The election of Masoud Pezeshkian as the new president of Iran brings significant implications for the already tense and ongoing conflict with Israel. Known for his hardline stance, Pezeshkian's leadership is likely to shape Iran's foreign policy in ways that could further exacerbate tensions. One of the critical aspects to consider is Pezeshkian's position on Iran's military support to proxy groups that oppose Israel's existence, such as Hezbollah in Lebanon and Islamic Jihad in Gaza. His administration might ramp up military assistance and strategic support to these groups, fueling more frequent and intense confrontations along Israel's borders. This increased backing could invigorate proxy warfare, potentially leading to more severe skirmishes or even a broader regional conflict. Pezeshkian's administration is also expected to continue, if not intensify, Iran's rhetoric against Israel, potentially upping the ante in diplomatic arenas. This might include more aggressive posturing in international forums, increased cyber warfare activities, and covert operations designed to undermine Israeli security. The global community may observe a heightened propaganda war, with each side seeking to garner support for its stance, potentially polarizing international opinion further. Another significant area to watch is the impact of Pezeshkian's domestic policies on the Israel conflict. A stronger grip on power at home could free up more resources and consolidate efforts towards Iran's regional goals, including its stance on Israel. Conversely, domestic turmoil could either distract from or drive more aggressive external policies as a means of consolidating support internally by rallying nationalistic sentiment against a traditional enemy. Lastly, Pezeshkian's approach to Iran's controversial nuclear program is another pivotal factor that could heighten the conflict. Should his administration pursue a more vigorous nuclear agenda, this may trigger preemptive responses from Israel, fearing existential threats. The delicate balance maintained by previous administrations through a mix of compliance and defiance could be disrupted, leading to potential military confrontations over nuclear facilities. In summary, the election of Masoud Pezeshkian as president of Iran could have profound and multifaceted implications for the Iran-Israel conflict. His administration's policies may lead to increased support for anti-Israel groups, more aggressive diplomatic positioning, domestic policy shifts influencing foreign actions, and heightened nuclear tensions, all contributing to a potentially more volatile and dangerous regional landscape. As we wrap up this discussion, it's clear that the election of Masoud Pezeshkian as Iran's new president brings significant and potentially transformative changes. Domestically, his presidency promises to impact human rights and women's freedoms. While there are hopes for improvements, skepticism remains regarding true reforms. Internationally, Pezeshkian's stance towards nuclear development will be closely watched by both allies and adversaries, with potential global security ramifications. His policies could deeply influence Iran's alliances with Gaza and Hezbollah and alter the dynamics of the ongoing Iran-Israel conflict. As we continue to observe these developments, only time will reveal the true impact of Pezeshkian's presidency. Thank you for tuning in and stay informed.